one Tom Kennedy riding to the rescue here. He is producing. Somehow we let Josh Engelman out, and my technology Wonder Twin powers, when activated with Adams, kind of got us mucked up there a little bit, which is a shame because I have the Bucks Deluxe gaming computer, Adam. But that's all right. Comedy of errors, everything snowballed. We're going to be good. We are again brought to you by Thrive. We'll talk about them a little bit, but you can get some deposit bonuses very nicely there. I'll drop that information into Slack. Adam, let's just recap quickly the first two games for those that did not get to see the comedy of errors that hopefully we will be deleting from YouTube or it will become a viral sensation. But we have the Knicks and Charlotte. You mentioned Trey Burke is running at about 75% on DraftKings in our early ownership projections. Unlikely that we see Enes Kanter play. On the other side, you've got Kemba Walker. You've got Nicholas Batum, who's been doing nice recently, getting all his minutes, was hitting his shots. That's the one thing we got to worry about him, where he doesn't take a ton of them. Give us the recap of the Queen City matchup between the Knicks and Charlotte's Hornets, who are favored by 12.
Yeah, but I mean, a pretty appealing game overall. Trey Burke, clearly one of the top value plays on the slate, will probably be the highest owned player on the slate. But with Ntilikina and Moutier out, it's kind of his show right now. So like him at his price tag, really like Noah Vonleh in this matchup. Should be able to bounce back nicely from a disappointing game last night. On the other side, just get as many different variations of these Charlotte guys as you can. It's a great matchup for them. Kemba Walker, obviously the number one priority for me, followed by Jeremy Lamb, Marvin Williams, who I think again should see Charlotte guys as you can. It's a great
Oops, sorry, that was me there, Adam.
Who I think should see more minutes than normal, because it's another game where Charlotte can go small. And then Nick Batum's fine wherever you get him. So just a great matchup for Charlotte, and it's obvious that they're going to score a lot of points. We know that most of their production comes from Kemba, followed by Lamb. So it's a really nice spot to target.
All right. Wrapping up game two. Yes, we are back. Dave, Skyler, Marino. We got it. Again, thank you for all of your patience. Our second game here, and then we'll go back to our leisurely pace through the last three. We have Golden State Warriors at Indiana. Golden State's favored by 8. We have a 227.5 over under. We know that Victor Oladipo is going to be out for the remainder of the season. We're hoping that Tyreke Evans steps up. He's not playing like we are used to seeing. He's not driving. He's not necessarily hitting his shots, and he's not playing a ton of minutes, which all is very frustrating. On the other side, we have one DeMarcus Cousins, who is coming in at 40% owned on DraftKings in our early projections. And sadly, he is in the mid 6,000s. I say sadly because we're going to need him to get 40 fantasy points to make that worthwhile in tournaments. Don't know that he's going to get there. He's been actually getting blocks and steals his last few games, gobbling up the rebounds, looking like about 80% of what we're used to seeing. Still doesn't have a lot of the explosiveness, etc., coming off of his ruptured Achilles tendon. But he has been living in the paint, Adam, and it is just amazing. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed watching him play. Give us a little thumbnail sketch here of the Wizards and Pacers.
So I mean, Cousins, I just have no interest in him in tournaments at this ownership and price tag. Same reasons that I haven't before. It's just easier to win a tournament without him than with him, because if he does, for one, you need him to greatly exceed the per minute production that he's going to average, but by a lot. And even if he does, you're still competing with a large percentage of the field. So I have really zero interest in Cousins in tournaments. I still like the price tag on Steph Curry. His minutes were staggered with Durant a bit last game, which makes them both more appealing if that continues going forward. There's no guarantee that it does, but it was good to see it happen at least a little bit against Boston. Draymond Green, if you get there, I think it's fine. But Curry would be my favorite player from Golden State. On the Indiana side, Darren Collison is still fine without Oladipo. Price tag has come up a little bit to where I don't plan on making him a priority. The front court is interesting to me. You don't want to take too much away from last game where Turner played about 28 minutes and Sabonis played 32. Thad Young was in foul trouble throughout that game. It's also a bigger Memphis team, so it's easier to play Turner and Sabonis alongside each other. I expect it to go back to something like 30 to 32 minutes from Turner and 24 to 26 from Sabonis here. So I like both of those, or I like Turner. If something happens and Turner gets in foul trouble, Sabonis would be in a good spot. But overall, not a ton of interest from the Indiana side for me.
All right. Now, reminder, we've got the deep dive coming today from Lofty. That will be the premium article series that Adam and Lofty write on alternating days, Monday through Saturday. That will be dropping. We, of course, will have the deep dive show 2 hours before tip-off this evening. And then you will get Fast Eddie Fear live before lock at taking you down the home stretch here. That'll, again, be on the YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to the old YouTube channel so you can get notifications of when all of our shows start. Click the little bell. That's the notification button, and you will get an alert when we go live. And we have a ton of content here at Osmo.com, both in front of and behind the paywall. Use promo code DFS strategy, all one word, at checkout and get 50% off any month-long package that does include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. Adam, now we're back to where the first debacle of a show ended. We have Brooklyn at Boston. Boston favored by double digits. This one is coming down to D'Angelo Russell. He is at 8,600 here on DraftKings. And I'm curious, is he going to be in your plans this evening?
Probably not at this price point. It's just that he's priced too high for his average production. At this point, you're paying for that ceiling, which we know is there, but it's a difficult matchup. He's not priced down for the matchup. And you really need him to go out and have a very efficient game, which he's certainly capable of doing. He's already done it against this team this season. But back last time he played Boston, if I remember correctly, he was something like $6,800, where it was very much worth it to take that risk. Now at 86, you really you're paying for it, and I just don't really feel the need to do that. Like, to me, D'Angelo Russell's not really that comparable even to Kemba Walker for $300 more. So I don't expect that I'll get much D'Angelo Russell here.
Right, and that's sort of with the DraftKings thinking cap on. We're projecting him at under 5%. On FanDuel, he's at 25%. When I ran my crunch here, he came into 35% of my lineups. He's at 8,400 there. The one thing I do want to point out is any of you guys that play over there on Draft, D'Angelo Russell is somebody that often gets overlooked. You can usually pick him up in the second round, oftentimes early third of those. I think they'll be running 6-mans today. I don't think they'll do 8-mans with just 5 games. But that's something a lot of people run biases with. And here we are in one lens saying, yeah, he's a little too expensive, not what I want. Over there, one player is on one team, no overlap and no salary cap. So you have to make sure that your head is in the correct space when you're playing on different sites, because oftentimes the masses, as we like to call them, the other gamers, the unwashed masses, Adam, make a lot of mistakes. And it is tough in the NBA. So you really want to maximize your efforts, limit your mistakes. And that's kind of where we're living on this very slim edge of what's going on here. And the games just keep getting tougher. Now, there's still a lot of fun. You need to look at this from an entertainment perspective, but we have some fun bankroll management tips that Josh is starting to work on. And I've got some stuff I've been putting together with regards to contest payouts and game selection. So that's something that'll be coming forward soon. Adam, going back here to the Nets, anybody else that you're interested in? They've got a couple guys dinged up, Joe Harris, and let's see, he had a hip issue, and then I believe Rondé Hollis Jefferson is probable. He has just been, I don't know, less than inspiring, but he's 3,700 on DraftKings. Finish up the Nets for us.
So I mean, you have Napier's price tag coming up. He's up to 4,600. Played 28 minutes last game, and he is productive enough when he plays. But at 4,600, his main appeal would be more as just like a pivot off of a popular Trey Burke in some lineups. From a projection standpoint, it's going to be Burke. So just a secondary play there. Jared Allen is always interesting when he's 5,500, but we're seeing Ed Davis play really well, take a lot of minutes from him. We saw 28 minutes last game against the Knicks. So it's just another reminder that Kenny Atkinson's rotation is kind of all over the place on a game-to-game basis. There's certainly upside for Allen, but again, it's just not something that you want to be super confident in.
All right. The Celtics, double-digit favorites here, Adam. We know that they've been judicious, I should say, with the rest of Kyrie Irving and Al Horford. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I suspect they're going to both play tonight, but how much they will be needed, that remains to be seen. We've got Kyrie Irving at 9,600 here on DraftKings. Al Horford back out of the $5,000 range. He's at 6,400. What do you got here from the Celtics?
I still really like Horford. He obviously the price tag's come up a bit, but he's been playing really well. I mean, for the season, he's averaging a little over a fantasy point per minute. Over the last month, he's averaging closer to 1.1 fantasy points per minute. But he's playing, 30 to 32 minutes again. And this is a phenomenal spot against Brooklyn. We know that they really give it up to opposing centers. Horford contributes in basically every stat category across the board, and the price tag's still reasonable. So I like Horford. I obviously like Kyrie if you can get there salary wise, especially it'll depend a lot, I think, for me on what our projected ownership is on him closer to lock, because with Kemba, $700 cheaper on DraftKings, Kemba, I think, has the same sort of ceiling that Kyrie does. But if everyone's going to go to Kemba, then Kyrie becomes a phenomenal play, and vice versa. If everyone's going to go to Kyrie coming off of that monster game against Golden State, I'm perfectly fine taking the savings on Kemba. I think they're both very, very good plays.
All right. Looking at some of their tertiary options, you have Marcus Smart, you got Marcus Morris, you've got the Jays, you've got Brown and Tatum there. It's a 10-team player pool, Adam. Are you going to let those guys sprinkle into your lineups?
Yeah, Jason Tatum, I think, is still a perfectly fine play. He's 5,600 on DraftKings, just too cheap for Tatum if he's going to play 32 to 33 minutes here, assuming some sort of a competitive game. I think that's appealing. Smart and Brown, not particularly interesting to me on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, where the shooting guard position is not particularly deep, and they are similarly priced as they are to DraftKings. I think that getting to those guys is perfectly fine because you get the extra block, you get the extra points for defensive stats on FanDuel, and they're just cheap enough, and there's not much opportunity cost at the position. So no issue with them there.
Excellent. I think that will do it for this matchup. You're ready to go on to game number 4.
Yep.
Denver at Memphis. We have Nikola Jokic coming off his 7th triple-double of the season. There was a lot of triple-doubles there on Saturday night. It was a lot of fun. We've got him checking in at 10,800. Marc Gasol and Mike Conley on the trade block. We'll have to see what the Grizzlies end up doing, but they are coming in at 7,800 and 7,700 respectively. And then Will Barton seeing his minutes tick up somewhat. Gary Harris starting, not starting, sick, not sick, but he should be in there. And then that, of course, kind of puts the kibosh on Torrey Craig, Malik Beasley, Monte Morris. Let's start off here with the visiting Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic, one of your favorite players, Adam. Let's go with the big man.
Yeah, really nothing not to like here about Jokic. I mean, it's not the best matchup against Marc Gasol in Memphis, but it just really doesn't matter for this guy. He's just so good in everything he does. He leads the team in rebounding percentage, he leads in assist percentage, he leads in usage rate. He's essentially a point guard playing center, and he's really, really good at it. So 5-game slate, there's nothing for me not to like about Jokic here. Should play around 34 minutes, assuming that this game is competitive, and should project somewhere in like the mid 50s, and certainly has the upside for more.
Now he's coming in at 16% on DraftKings, 20% on FanDuel. I have a feeling he's going to be in more of your lineups than that. Where are you ranking Jokic on the overall pantheon of player options today?
Let me switch to everyone real quick. Yeah, I mean, right now I have him as my highest scoring player. It's in terms of projections, it's not a huge difference between him and Kyrie or him and the Golden State guys, and they're obviously cheaper. But again, if he's not going to be really, really popular, and he has that monster 70+ fantasy point ceiling, I'm expecting that I'll get a pretty healthy amount of Jokic.
All right. It's Jokic and the understudies here. Is there anybody that interests you from the remainder of the Nuggets? We do have an intriguing price point here on Paul Millsap. He is just 5,100. However, In two of his last three, he has scored 11 fantasy points or less. He is playing about 20 to 22 minutes. It's a little bit dicey, but this seems to be a game where they are going to need him. Would you look to him or any of the other Denver options?
The Millsap minutes are a bit concerning. For a lot of those games where he played 20 to 22 minutes, it was a massive blowout, including the last game against the Sixers. But even in that game against Philadelphia, it was weird in that Millsap did not step on the floor in the fourth quarter. And, it wasn't a huge blowout yet at that point. So that was weird. We saw that against Utah as well in a competitive game. Millsap just not close. So definitely concerned by that. I think that the Mason Plumlee is particularly on DraftKings where you can play him at power forward, but he's $3,900. And even with this team healthy, we continue to see him playing power forward with Jokic. So that makes it so you can still project him for somewhere around 20 to 22 minutes. He picked up a few extra minutes last game because of foul trouble in the first half to Paul Millsap. But I thought that he would just go back to playing backup center minutes, but he's done a good enough job defensively this season. And, he's a good enough passer that you can play him alongside Jokic. We keep seeing him sub in as the first sub for Millsap, and then he, slides to the 5 when Jokic sits. So I think that against a bigger Memphis team, there's no reason to think that does not continue tonight. He appears to be the priority over Trey Lyles. So I think Plumlee in tournaments, I still wouldn't want to play him with Jokic because the easiest way for Plumlee to get to a ceiling is Jokic to get in foul trouble or something. But as a value play in non-Jokic lineups, I think that on DraftKings specifically, Plumlee's fine.
All right, sounds like you're doing the stepping inside the beautiful mind of one Coach Malone. Again, Adam, trying to figure out what's going on with those minutes. Now, from a macro perspective, let's step back here. The Denver Nuggets, for those of you that are mired in the micromanagement of DFS, they have the 4th best record in the NBA. They're a game and a half behind Golden State in the Western Conference. It'll be dodgy for them to make that up, but perhaps we are seeing them looking towards the NBA's, quote, second season and trying to keep Millsap and others healthy, because this could be a nice deep run in the playoffs for them. And I think that was kind of unexpected this year. We knew they would likely vie for a playoff berth, even in the tough Western Conference, but holy heck, they have just been outstanding. And I think this is a nice real-life basketball team with a ton of depth. Now, that can be a little frustrating for us in daily fantasy sports, but as Adam has pointed out, as things change, maybe Millsap's not going to play as much when the games are in hand. Perhaps Miles Plumlee is going to pick up those minutes. That's something we definitely want to keep tabs on. Looking over to the Memphis side here, recalibrating, dropping down $3,000 on DraftKings. We have Marc Gasol, we have Mike Conley, both checking in at the upper 7,000s here, Adam. An intriguing matchup for both of them. We know that they are on the trade block. We'll have to see what happens. We've got Gasol coming in at 30% on DraftKings, and then we have Conley coming in at 11%. What is your initial take going to be for the Grizz?
I'm fine with whatever I get of either of them. Denver has been struggling defensively. It's not a bad matchup for either of them. The price tags are reasonable, not quite as low as I would like, but you should get somewhere around 34 minutes from Gasol and probably 36 from Conley. So Gasol's been averaging about a fantasy point per minute over the last month. The assist percentage has gone up. He just hasn't been quite as productive as he plays through these nagging injuries. Mike Conley has about a 27% usage rate over that span. Neither one is really a priority for me, but I think that, they're both in a nice spot.
Looking at FanDuel, we do have Gasol coming in at 23% for the projected popularity. My crunch came in with him at 16. He is at 8,300 there. And then we have Conley at 9%, which is actually where my crunch came in as well. Remember, you got to start 2 point guards, 2 shooting guards, 2 small forwards, 2 power forwards, and a center. You drop your lowest score there on FanDuel. And if you use the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, they have now added the feature where it will drop your lowest score for you within your crunches, so you can get a better perspective of how that is breaking out. So if you guys have not yet tried that, promo code DFS Strategy, 50% off any 1 month package at Osmo. That does include the Fantasy Cruncher add-on add-on. Use the promo code DFS Strategy, all one word, at checkout to receive that discount. Anybody else here for Memphis? Perhaps a JaMychal Green, a Justin Holiday. They've got a lot of minutes that have suddenly become available. We've got a discount dandy in Shelvin Mack. He is at 3,600. Are these going to be some of the guys that help you build your desired lineups?
Well, we're still waiting on Kyle Anderson news here, which I think is important. Not that I expect him to necessarily come back and play a bunch of minutes like he was before his injury, but he can come back and eat some minutes, if he plays. If not, it obviously just opens up more minutes. I would expect 37 to 38 minutes from Justin Holiday again, which when you get to, like a mid $4,000 price tag on Holiday, it means that he doesn't have a ton of upside anymore, but he's still a reasonable play if he's going to get that many minutes. JaMychal Green is obviously very risky. He played 7 minutes last game, said after the game that he wasn't even going to play that game because of an injury, but he tried to suck it up because they were shorthanded. It didn't work out. Wish we had known that beforehand, but he's probable to play tonight. The concern obviously is just that injury probably didn't completely disappear over the last couple of days. But if Kyle Anderson is out, Green should have an opportunity to play a bunch of minutes here with Caspi doubtful and with Garrett Temple sidelined. So before their last game, I had Green projected for about 30 minutes. That might be a little high, but I think that he could at least get into that mid-20s range if Kyle Anderson's out.
And courtesy of RotoWorld here, this is information from the Grizzlies public relations account. We have Kyle Anderson was seen going through on-cart drills with trainers on Thursday. Sounds like his return is imminent. If you do remember, he was ruled out for 2 to 4 weeks. That was back on January 12th. So we're kind of into that first part of that 2 weeks. So he should be back today or by the end of the week would be my guess, but keep an eye on that, as Adam mentioned, because that could pinch minutes for some of the other players. Anything else from this contest, or shall we look at our 10:30 late night hammer?
Yeah, I think we're good to move on to the Atlanta Clippers game.
Clippers, 6-point home favorites, 231 over under. They, of course, are on a back-to-back, having played Saturday afternoon. Atlanta has been quite frisky in games lately, both at home and on the road, Adam. They're still losing. They're rolling over and playing dead, but it at least is getting some of the starters for the other team minutes into the early fourth quarter, which is something that is key. Let's start off with the hometown Clippers here. We've got, where is my Danilo Gallinari news? He is still, he's out. But we have Montreal Harrell. We've got Lou Williams, who led you to a phenomenal night earlier last week. And then Tobias Harris, amongst that trio of stalwarts for the Clippers, anyone standing out in particular?
All of them, but Harrell hasn't been playing great lately, but this is a really nice matchup for him. So I'll go right back there, especially at a very reasonable price tag. Lou Williams' price tag has come up a bit, but I think still a really nice spot for him. Without Gallinari on the floor this year, you're looking at about a 34% usage rate, nearly a 34% assist percentage as well. He will come out, play around 28 minutes, possibly more if this game is competitive to the end. And we know that he's going to go out there and shoot a ton. And then you get Harris, who also gets a boost without Gallinari, more rebounding opportunities for Harris, also more minutes. So I think that, he's a strong play as well. I love this game. It's a spot where I certainly want to game stack it in some lineups, and I'm fine having multiple players from these teams because neither team great defensively or good defensively whatsoever, and both of them play at a fast pace.
Yeah, and that was something we were talking about in chat yesterday in the Slack, premium Slack for Montreal. Montreal, I never know how to say his name. We'll just call him Harrell.
Montreal.
But he has been somewhat disappointing over his last few games and not quite as exciting as we had seen before. Sorry about that. But if we go look at the matchups, he's played a lot of big centers against Detroit, New Orleans, Utah, Dallas, Miami, etc. And I think that's been somewhat capping his upside because even though he is playing the 5, he is still about 6'8", 225. So that is a rail thin player to be down there on the blocks when there are plotting and imposing big men, because he just doesn't stand a chance guarding Andre Drummond, etc. So this matchup should be a little bit interesting. The Hawks have not the most stalwart defensive front court, but they also don't have a lot of behemoths down there. Most of their guys are pretty mobile. So this is something that I think would be beneficial to Harrell in this matchup. Lou Williams, Adam, revenge. I think he played for the Hawks, one of the 17 teams he's played for. I exaggerate, but I think he's played for about 9 different teams. Heck, back in the day, he spent the first 7 years of his career with the Philadelphia 76ers. I bet most of you watching don't remember that. Anything else here on the Clips?
Yeah, I mean, you can look to this front court to the back court for value. Trey Burke obviously will take a ton of the ownership at this price point, but you do have I don't even know if riskier is the right word, just kind of less appealing plays in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 3,800 on DraftKings, Pat Beverly at 45. Beverly in particular, he's been playing really well and his minutes have been there. So I think that with his price tag coming back down, like last week he had hit $5,000 on DraftKings and it was to a point where I didn't really want to get there. But now for some reason he's back to 4,500. It's obviously a great matchup for him. He'll get to probably just punk Trae Young like he did Lonzo Ball last season. And, he has the opportunity for defensive stats there. But if he's going to play around 36 minutes, it's really hard not to like him in this spot. And then Gilgeous-Alexander, his minutes have been a lot less secure than Beverly's, but we saw him play 31 minutes yesterday. He played 31 minutes 3 games ago against Miami. Kind of been all over the place. Not the most productive player anyway, but at a sub 4K price tag, certainly someone that you can have some exposure to on this 5-game slate. I would rank him behind Beverly, though.
All right. Chat is having some fun at my expense, as they should, Adam. They're bringing up the Joel Embiid incident from the other night where I got my days confused and was drafting him in draft thinking I was pulling a fast one.
And bragging about it.
About it. Took the victory lap before it even happened. Spoiler alert, I lost all those games. So sometimes the gods get a good chuckle at you when you get a little too cocky. But I think someone was saying that Lou Williams did not play from Atlanta, but he is from Atlanta. He played at least 1, if not 2 seasons.
Yeah, he played for the Hawks.
All right. Yes, the old victory lap. This is why I don't take them, why I usually am not parading about on Twitter with my chest puffed out, because more often than not, you step off that curb feeling all full of yourself, and the cement truck of humility comes by and just knocks you out of your shoes. So there we are. But check out Draft. I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun over there. Doing some best balls for NBA. It's kind of interesting. Had a strategy going into it, but forgot how much injuries there actually end up being in the NBA, which is why you want to construct your lineups appropriately to make sure you have coverage for those contests. Finishing it off here with the Hawks, let's go to the backcourt. We've got one Trae Young who has his moments, Adam. I have found less success than I expected going against the Clippers when I choose opposing backcourt players. But with the 5-game player pool here, I think Young is going to be in the mix for me. Starting off with our rookie, what do you got for us?
So more of a tournament play than, like a cash option for me, which normally I hate when people say that, but it's how it is. Like, I think because of the pace of this game, because of the amount of exposure I expect to have to Clippers players, I like having Trae Young in tournaments simply because if this game does shoot out like I'm hoping it will, he's likely to be a reason why. But from a pure point per dollar standpoint, there's cheaper point guards for sure that you want to get to. There's more expensive guys like Kemba that you want to get to, and it just kind of leaves Trae Young out of optimal builds. So it's much more appealing for one game type than others, but certainly some upside for him here. A tough matchup with Pat Beverly, and we've seen Beverly, like I alluded to before with Lonzo Ball last year. He likes to get up for these matchups against hyped rookies like Trae Young. So that'll be fun to watch. But the upside, certainly there for him. Should play 33 to 34 minutes. I really like the spot for these front court guys. John Collins is really good. His minutes kind of have been not all over the place, but up and down lately. But in competitive games, I still think you can see 33 to 34 minutes from him, and he should get some center minutes as well in what is a very favorable matchup. So Collins is another one who I don't think he's an optimal play in like a cash lineup, but I do think there's tons of value for him in tournaments. Like I would rather play John Collins in tournaments than D'Angelo Russell at a similar price point. And then you get to the cheaper guys where it's a great matchup going against some combination of Marcin Gortat and Montrezl Harrell. Dwayne Dedmon not playing as many minutes as we would like, played about 24 last game, 26 the game before that. We have Alex Len still playing 14 to 16 minutes, and then Collins and Spellman playing. So it's a crowded front court. It makes it so you can't be too confident in Dedmon. It is worth pointing out that he lost 3.5 minutes to foul trouble in the first half of his last game. So, maybe still can get in that 26 to 28 minute range. And he's cheap enough that there is some value there.
All right. We'll do a little bit of Thrive here, Adam. In the meantime, while you pull that stuff up, we've got some ownership here for the final game of the night on FanDuel. We've got Tobias Harris checking in at 50%, Montrezl Harrell checking in at 48%, Lou Williams at 45%. I am exceeding all of those numbers when I ran my first crunch. Looks like Patrick Beverley may be in our lives today, 4,600 there on FanDuel. We're projecting him for 38% of the field. I'm only getting him at 13 on my crunches, so that's one to keep an eye on. Looking over here at DraftKings, Pat Beverley is the operational play of the day, 4,500. He is. We're projecting him right now for 28 fantasy points and to be on 50% of the lineups that are out there. Tobias Harris coming in at 30%, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the rookie, coming in at 35%. He's 3,800 on DraftKings. That is potential early discount value. We do have 10 teams in action, so that means somebody will have the flu or be out for personal reasons. Anything else, Adam, or shall we talk a little Thrive?
I think we're good to go with Thrive.
All right, let me drop this link in the chat, but here is your reminder. Thrive is a site that we have partnered with to get you some deposit bonuses. So if you go to bit.ly/Osmo, that will take you to the Thrive site where you can download their app for your phone. And if you make your first deposit, you will get a $10 deposit match if you put in $10, $20 if you put in $100, and $50 if you deposit $200 or more. Now that is available for immediate play. We don't have too many deals like that out there, so that's something that you're definitely going to want to look into. How it works is it's player props. Their contests run 20 questions. You select any 10 that you want, and then you get points for the outcome. Of course, these are binary outcomes. It's player props. So if something is likely to happen, you get less points. If it's less likely to happen, you get more points, just like a player prop. Adam, let's do a couple here as an example.
Yeah, so we can start out in that Charlotte-New York game, start with one of the most appealing players on the slate with Kemba Walker. 100 points for the over, 100 points for the under, 30.5 total points plus assists for Kemba.
Oh boy, that's a pretty solid number there, Adam. I'm going to take the over because it's the New York Knicks.
That is very sound reasoning, I think. I have Kemba at 32.7 combined, so it would be the over for me as well. Staying in that same game, we can go to your boy Nick Batum, 8.5 total rebounds plus assists, 90 points for the over, 110 for the under.
Let's see, because I was saying good things about him, proclaiming his virtues, I'll take the under for that, Adam. It's just he'll get the minutes. What's he gonna do with them? That's the hard thing. Yeah, he's very chameleon-like and does whatever they need him to do. It's usually not scoring, so I'm gonna take.
Yeah, but this was rebounds plus assists.
Oh, sorry, I'm still taking the under.
Okay. Yeah, it's close for me because I haven't projected for about 10 total, but you get more points for the under. I still think I would take the over here with Batum. D'Angelo Russell, pretty interesting one on him. 30.5 total points plus rebounds plus assists, 105 points for the under, 95 for the over.
I'm going to take the under again.
That's really close for me. I have him at so I'm at 32.3. Less points for the over. It makes it really close. I think I would go ahead and take the under here.
All right, let's do one last one before we get on out of here.
All right, let's close it out with Will Barton, 8.5 total rebounds plus assists. We didn't really mention him much during this game, so I think this is an interesting one to point out that if Jamal Murray is out, I expect Will Barton to play point guard again, which obviously would increase his assist opportunities. So for me, I would take the over on the 8.5 rebounds plus assists.
I would agree with that as well. He is another one of those glue guys that can kind of do it all. How do I end up with now Nick Batum is my guy? Adam, when
you send me an article, when you send me like a 6-page article and tell me to read it, that becomes your guy.
Well, Fred VanVleet is still near and dear in my heart. So reminder, when I'm playing that, posting that Fred VanVleet fan club contest, I'm the only one who has to play VanVleet. You guys don't have to. That's the edge you get in that contest because, frankly, it's just not fun playing him anymore. Adam, it's not fun. But I have been cashing in that one. Last night I got 28 out of 30 though.
Wait, you've been cashing in this thing that you have to play Fred VanVleet?
Yeah, I've so it's $1 per night. My last $13 in, so 13 contests. I've got 18 back out. That's not too shabby. And
anyone who has played in those contests should be absolutely embarrassed and feel very bad about themselves.
Exactly. It's no lose for me. Hey, I had to play VanVleet. That's why I was so bad. Or I beat you and I played Fred VanVleet. So there we are. We got to have fun. That's the whole point of daily fantasy sports. Getting rich, yes, that would be nice, but
yeah, that's the point. But
yeah, it's always some other asshole that's winning. It's never you. It's never you. That's how it works out. Unless your name is Adam, Ship My Money Share, who has been on one heck of a tear. So other content we have coming out tonight, we've got some NHL action. Oh, wait, are they? No, we don't have NHL because they're still finishing up the All-Star break, but we do have NBA, the deep dive that will be written by Laffy. That article should come out around 3 o'clock this afternoon. We've got the deep dive show that will be Adam and Laffy at 5 o'clock, breaking down the 5-game slates. Again, we will have a lot more news coming out of shoot-arounds, etc. So that will be your up-to-date information and current analysis, which is something that's very, very important in the NBA. And then taking you up to lock, you have one Fast Eddie Fear in the Live Before Lock show. So you'll definitely want to check that out. With that, gamers, we are going to be signing off here. So let's see how this works. We'll have to let the producer know since I'm not in charge of the little button anymore. And I should not be in charge of the little button. Me and Donald Trump, you should not allow us near the buttons. That's just the way to go. All right, Adam, last thoughts as we fill some dead air?
Laffy and I will be back for a 5-game slate, 5 p.m. Eastern tonight with the Deeper Dive show. Obviously breaking it down a little bit more in depth as we get more news throughout the day. All
right. With that, we've got Tom at the controls. Thank you for him riding in with the cavalry to save my bacon. Good luck, gamers.